The Ferguson protesters have emerged as contenders for Time Magazine's Person of the Year. The demonstrations got international attention, of course, and have turned into a national movement. The candidates for Time's Person of the Year include doctors treating Ebola, patients in Africa, and the Pope.
The Ferguson protests have angered some and inspired others, but there's no question we've all paid attention to what's happened there. News 4 Investigates' Craig Cheatham has been following the people in the movement from the beginning.
Steve and Sharon, any day now we could learn the grand jury's decision in the investigation of the deadly police shooting involving Mike Brown. Whether Officer Darren Wilson is charged or not, the demonstrations and bigger issues raised by protesters will continue to get national attention.
It was a devastating day.
Marquise Mull says he arrived at Canfield Green just 15 minutes after Mike Brown was shot and killed by Ferguson police officer Darren Wilson. He saw Brown's body laying uncovered in the middle of the street for more than 4 hours. Among some residents, the lack of trust in police was so deep that Mull says he and others stayed there watching Brown's body and the way the police interacted with him. Are you telling me that part of the reason so many people were in Canfield watching Mike's body that day is because people were concerned that the police would plant a gun on him?
Yeah. Most definitely.
No justice, no peace.
The anger grew and Ferguson quickly looked like a war zone. As police and demonstrators squared off, Mull was in the crowd with other members of a peacekeepers group, wondering how and why it had come to this. But like many protesters, the early emotional moments fueled a passion for what is now a national movement.
This is a movement. This is like Martin Luther King, Marcus Garvey, Malcolm X.
All lives matter.
The focus, he says, is on fighting for justice and fairer treatment by law enforcement in poor, mostly black communities. The ongoing demonstrations have spread to many cities across the country, and Mull believes it could become a major civil rights movement that changes law enforcement and the courts.
This is historical, and this is a very important movement to all of us.
Now the Ferguson protesters are mentioned on Time Magazine's website as a possible Person of the Year.
The issues that have been raised here they're not unique to Ferguson, and many of them aren't necessarily Ferguson issues, but Ferguson is doing what it can to make sure that people understand that we're willing to reform. We're willing to listen.
Ferguson Mayor James Knoll, widely criticized by protesters at the beginning, insists the city is listening to demonstrators and has initiated reforms to municipal court and the police department, including work on creating a civilian oversight panel for the city PD.
I think it shows that it's caught the eye of the country. Absolutely.
And Marquise Mull is more committed than ever to raising his voice so that others will hear it too.
If we don't stand up right now for this movement, it's going to keep on going.
Time Magazine has chosen heroes and villains for Person of the Year, but the common element is always impact on our world. Time will announce its Person of the Year in 2 weeks. Craig Cheatham, News 4.